Welcome to the newest episode of Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. I'm your host, Jason Fraley, picking the brains of the top filmmakers, musicians, and artists of our time. The Marshall Tucker Band brings its 50th anniversary tour to Capital One Hall in Tysons, Virginia on Sunday night. I spoke with lead singer Doug Gray about how the band got its name, as well as its biggest hits from Can't You See to Heard It in a Love Song. Hey, Doug Gray, lead singer of Marshall Tucker Band. Thanks so much for calling in.
Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate it, you having me.
Now, we're talking because you're bringing the 50th anniversary tour of Marshall Tucker Band to Capital One Hall in Tysons, Virginia. That venue just opened like within the last year, so it's pretty new. But tell us about the 50th anniversary tour. I guess I assume it's playing all the old hits. Is there anything new? Any covers? Like what sort of stuff can we expect?
Well, I tell you what, it's a mixture of all the old and the new and the things that we haven't done in quite a while. Primarily because, and I say that is because a lot of people say, well, new stuff. Of course, we play new stuff all the time, but or we wouldn't be around for 50 years. You don't. Marshall Tucker Band don't live on just the original 8, 9, 10 songs. Okay, we live on the stuff that we're preparing for everybody else. And I never follow a set list. So if somebody in the audience screams something out, I have the ability to come up with the lyrics, and then the band all of a sudden goes, hey, I know that song, and they'll come in too. So it makes for a little bit more excitement instead of the same old blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, exactly. And even though the same old stuff is legendary stuff, but it's nice to have a variety for sure. All right,
Sure.
cool. So whenever I have someone on, I'd love to hear about, your whole journey. So I know you yourself were born in Spartanburg, South Carolina back in 48. And didn't you know some of the
Right.
guys, some of the band guys back in high school? Like tell me about the new generation and the rants and how those old bands sort of ended up combining.
Well, Tommy Caldwell come to me one night. He said, come on over to this guy's house. His name was Randy Foster. He's Professor Foster now. And he's, he didn't care that much about playing music at that point. So we got together, stayed together for a while as that band. And then Toy wanted to start a band. We all went to the same high school but one person, and then everybody said, well, we got to go to military. War was going on. So Toy went first, I went second, Tommy third, and then George went. Then we all went in the military, and I came back as sergeant. Toy came back that, I think. And then we came back, and we were sitting around and said, well, we got this. Why don't we find a place to rehearse? And we did. And it was about 100 square foot. It was smaller than a hotel room. And we started just going there twice a week for about an hour and a half every night. And every night that we rehearsed, we had a bunch of different songs. Plus, we had to play commercial stuff, and we didn't have a real name. Toy was not going to name it Toy. He didn't want us to do it that way, and then I didn't want to become New Generation all over again. And so we didn't want to go back all the way to the Gilsman. That was in 1901 or something. I don't know. But it was kind of, as I chuckle about that, that was one of the first bands I was ever into, the Gilsman, and they were, 1958 or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, I was 10 years old. That's about right. And we just wanted to play. We didn't care. And to this day, it's still fun to go out there. Sometimes you might play for 5,000 people. You might play for 300. You might go in like we did in Manhattan and play for 40 people and then turn right around and then open for the Allman Brothers at a sold-out Madison Square Garden show. So then, we played for the Grateful Dead, and then with the Grateful Dead, at Englishtown had 160,000 people there, and we had the helicopter in and out. So things were just getting freaky, that we had no idea what was going to happen. And second of all, we never really expected any more. Okay, we never once expected the next day to be better or the longevity that we have had now. Me being the sole guy that's alive. I mean, Paul and Jerry's still alive, but they don't play anymore. Okay, and they haven't played for 25, 30 years. So it makes for a little bit more excitement because this band has been with me now is 25 years, except for the bass player, and I changed the bass player about 2 years ago, and because the other guy needed to stay home with his kids, and I've watched a lot of people come and go and crew and stuff like that, but the whole thing started primarily because we just wanted to get together because I liked him playing. He liked the way that I sang. We needed an extra person to do this. So we called these people up and we were talking to them, and, they said, yeah, we'll meet you up there. And hence the Marshall Tucker Band. And we found a key that opened the door to let us in. And on the key, there was a tag, and it was a little small round white tag. And it had Marshall Tucker on it. Marshall Tucker is still alive. He's a blind piano tuner, doing well. He left Spartanburg to pursue a dream of being a choir instructor in Columbia, South Carolina. And I'm giving you a whole lot of information, but I can know what you can do with it. So it was kind of nice. We have stayed in touch. We've been friends. He got tired of doing the Marshall Tucker Band stuff. Said, man, I just want to be away from that for a while. He never was part of the band, but he loved the fact that we weren't tearing his name up. You know what I mean? We're throwing televisions out the window and things like that. So, I mean, a lot of people were doing that during that period of time. We went through several, over 50 years, people have done some really weird stuff that I had to step up and take the blame because I was the only one that was halfway together so that I could get down there and talk to them. I did it with a sense of humor. Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, gosh, you gave me so many things I wanted to ask you about in there. Yeah, remind our listeners, you just mentioned it, that the name Marshall Tucker obviously is that's not named anyone in the band. That's comes from the key, the blind. You said it's a blind piano tuner going into your rehearsal space, and it was on the key.
Well, no, what happened is we had to rent that spot that we were using. So I think it was like $5 a month or something like that. And so we'd leave our equipment in there, and it was a little place we called home for us just to rehearse. And, it was cheap. And found out that the key was used for Marshall Tucker if they needed to get in there. Okay. Now, Marshall is a strong man, still doing well. His wife is blind as well. But he went to Glen Springs blind and other handicap school down there, and they taught him how to do that kind of stuff. Plus, he was tone pitch perfect, and so he used that. Back in the old days, you had great big old pianos, and they'd come get him, and then he'd bring them down parts to that little bitty room. And then he moved, and sure enough, about 6 months to a year later, we needed a place to rent, and we went up there and got it. Never even thought to care about the name, or the number. We just went down the street, and that was it.
Wow. Well, I'm sure he was probably grateful that you made his name famous. you blew up.
No, but the thing is he's still a famous person. So
Right.
He was extremely famous doing what he was doing, because everybody had to have him because he was pitch perfect and he could tune the piano so well. And, and plus he was in charge of the chorus in the church for, for over 40 years.
Wow. That's wild.
So,
right,
he was a strong man.
Definitely. Well, it's a really cool tribute that, you name your whole band after him. Well, all right. So then I know in 73, you guys signed with Capricorn for, your self-titled debut album. And of course the big lead single off that, Can't You See, at least today, it might be the one most people know you from. That thing is iconic. So take me into, how that one was written and recorded. Any memories of being in studio cutting that one?
Yeah, we cut it in 3 different places, and the first one was at Muscle Shoals. We went down there and cut it, and we had real producers. It was during the Muscle Shoals hot time period,
Oh yeah.
So we went in and recorded 3 songs, and didn't really know anything much about it, but somebody paid for it, so we went down there. Then, I think we paid for it, and came back, and then we had something that we needed to do over in Greenville, the studio, which is 30 miles away from Spartanburg. And when we did that, we walked out with 3 or 4 songs, and that was "Can't You See" and "Take the Highway" and "Heard It in a Love Song." Okay, those songs were around for a long time, and so we have different. You listen to them live, and you listen to them live, and listen to the recording. You find a completely different style, not change up, but a style change. And that was primarily because we were changing it as we were going. We were understanding that, there's a way to go 70 miles an hour if you want to, or you can go 40, So we changed that, and we realized that people wanted it upbeat a little bit more, and so we moved it up to upbeat a little bit more. But as far as "Can't You See," it's in about 5 or 6 Netflix movies, 4 or 5 Amazons. My God,
It's everywhere.
It's in all kind of movies.
Well, why do you think it took off so much? Is it that, I mean, that opening flute is kind of a unique thing for a Southern rock song. And then the way the vocals too, just come in and it's like a pleading wailing about, how I've been heartbroken. I mean, there's so much cool about that song.
Right. I think it's every guy's dream, and it's every woman's dream in a lot of ways. Okay. Which is all cool to us because there's so many spots. Johnny Depp, did it in that movie Blow. Okay,
Right.
He used it there. So as we, that's the one song out of 330 songs that one of the 3 songs I didn't sing.
Funny how that works, right?
Isn't that weird?
But you were there for it, of course. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we all had a part in putting it all together. But the thing is, Toy came up with it, and then when I heard him sing it, I said, "My God, man, I can't sing it like that because my voice is a little bit smoother, and his voice was testifying."
Right.
And that's why they like it in certain movies, because it makes a point. It has a lyric. There's a song I think Amazon's got in a movie coming up. Or TV program. I don't know. Anyway, I do know about them because I've seen them and had to prove them. But I guess it's some of those songs have such lyrics that it fits a lot of episodes in movies that you wish you could hear this particular song come in. Whether it be "Can't You See," "I Should Have Never Started Loving You." Mine was the first one. That was called "I Should Have Never Started Loving You." He's playing in Brussels in Belgium right now.
Wow.
Okay. So I don't know why. I know that it fit the movie. They were all getting saved off an island. So "I Should Have Never Started Loving You" was the song.
That's so cool. It show up everywhere.
Things. Yeah, well, you never know. In Paris, sometimes things like that pop up. We don't know. We don't try to emulate that part of it. What we try to do is just have that stuff ready. There's some songs that people have asked us to write for particular movies that were crap, and we didn't let them out. So, there's things that you don't want to get associated with. And we knew what it was because we get to see a little bit of the script. The only one I regret was Urban Cowboy. Okay. That was the one thing that we did not want to do for some dumb reason, because we were the cowboys out there riding range, knocking the beer bottles over and, knocking the people over at will. Because, everybody looked at us and they said, "Oh, redneck cowboys, here they are." We looked like the 6 guys that was riding into town, a hooping and a hollering, getting ready to tear up the town. That's what we looked like.
Did you just quote Blazing Saddles? Riding
Yeah, I
into
did.
town.
Well, thank you. Riding into town, a
A
whooping and a
whomping and a
hollering, and
womping,
I'm not
every
gonna say the
living thing
rest.
that moves. Awesome. Well, that's great. Thanks for giving me all that movie gold. I didn't know we'd even go into that. Thank you. Real quick, tell me about a lot of our listeners are going to remember your big top 40 hit, "Fire on the Mountain." Didn't Charlie Daniels slide in to do a guest appearance on the fiddle on that one?
Yeah, Charlie played on our first 4 records.
Okay.
Okay, because when I just went to Charlie's funeral this last year, and it was tough. I saw his son the other night when we played the Grand Ole Opry. A lot of people don't think we're country enough to play the Grand Ole Opry, but we've been there 4 or 5 times. We've been invited to be there. Sold out shows. It's kind of strange, but we had a whole lot of country stuff, and it was a lot and that was Rod McEwen playing on it as well. And there was a lot of artists that just wanted to. There's guys from Tower of Power that came in and played on certain records. But everybody wanted to play with Marshall Tucker because we took it to a new groove. It was like a jazz band. Everybody bring your instrument and play whatever you got. Play whatever you brought, you know. And we made room for each person, you know. Music can work with anything. Any kind of music can work any way you want it.
Oh, well, you look at a lot of today's country music. It sounds a lot like what you guys were doing in the Southern Rock back in the day. It's pretty much become that in a lot of ways. So of course
Well,
they better let you sing at the Opry.
well,
But
no, you would think that, but we didn't for a lot of years, 20 years. We never got that choice. But then I walk in and there's people that like little Jimmy Dickens, who's passed now. Kitty Wales did one of our songs in 1965.
Mhm.
Excuse me, 1967. And Kitty Wales, she's the queen of Southern stuff. Her and Loretta, you know. So of that country rock, I call it country era, and that was a lot of rock and roll. It was according to what kind of station you were playing on, you know. And those people were important. We learned from those people, you know. One minute somebody'd be playing Kitty Wales, and the other minute I'd be playing Pointer Sisters, you know, and they go, "What in the hell are you listening to?" Well, I grew up singing rhythm and blues before there was ever a Marshall Tucker band. I was singing Sam and Dave and people like that, and then we all sang Sam and Dave, and then all of a sudden we meshed together, left and went to service, came back, and had an uncanny ability to be able to play some funky music. White boy. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, that's true. I mean, you and a lot of artists that era. I mean, we all grew up on a variety of stuff, and so the music winds up being a fusion of all the different genres.
Right. There's a lot of music that's being abused today that, are kind of, I can't say anything bad about it, but I can say that I think there's a lot of songs, and Waylon would say it best, if you want a real good halftime show. Now, I have played the Super Bowl, okay, pre-Super Bowl and after Super Bowl and all that stuff. We've had 2 or 3 times to do that, but you know what? People come to be entertained at halftime, okay? I did not think that was a terrible show, but I don't think it was for the people because people could not see it on the other side.
I think it's generational. It's stuff that my era grew up in. My parents,
Yeah.
my parents are probably like, "What is this? What are you listening to?" But
Yeah.
my friends and I knew every single song. So it really was a generational one, I think.
Well, can I tell you something? I live with a girl that's 20 years younger than me. Okay, she's been my girlfriend for 11 years. Okay, been married 3 or 4 times, and we were watching it, and I was explaining to her, and I played for the Panthers and the Ravens, right? You play those shows, and you come out and you recognize you're singing to the whole audience. That was my only downfall to her. And my daughter, who was 29 years old, and one of my daughters is 29, the other one's 40. They're both doctors, okay? So I look at it like this. Is it monumental to be from an age group and not recognize that the other side of the audience, other side of that 70,000 people could not see what you were aiming at on the cameras? It was very important. You're just not playing for one side. You're playing for the whole world. I do think some of those songs are pretty good,
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, like I said, I grew up on a lot of that stuff. Did you
Yeah.
tell me?
Eminem, first time I heard Eminem, I said, play that again. My youngest daughter, that was a long time ago.
Do you remember the first
And
Eminem song that you heard from your daughter?
yeah, it was the first one on the record. I
Nice.
can't think of what I could I can't think of the
It
name of
might
it
it
right
might have
now
it might have
because
been
I've been
it
writing
might have been the real Slim Shady probably back in the day.
Real Slim Shady. That's
Bum,
right.
bum, bum,
Yeah,
bum, bum. Yeah, that one.
it had the beat. That's why you remember it. It had the beat, and
Exactly.
once it had that beat, it hooked me. Now I'm 70 something years old.
I didn't know I'd be
Huh?
talking Eminem with the Marshall Tucker Band.
Well,
uh,
it's not that far away. Okay,
yeah, that's true.
regardless of the fact, he could come in here and make something good. Very creative guy with his help. With all his people he's got with him.
Kenny, there was a line, rest in peace, Kenny Rogers had a line a couple years ago where he said, it was back around the 2000s, and he said, the best rapper's white and the best golfer's black, and it's about damn time. I guess
Well,
Tiger.
he would say that, but
Yeah, right.
one of the guys that produced one of my records that's not out there right now was Larry Butler, and he produced The Gambler for Kenny.
Rest in peace. Hey, real quick before we hop off here, we've taken a lot of fun tangents here into a lot of stuff, but I want to make sure our
They give
listeners.
you something to do the rest of the afternoon. Let you edit all this down.
Yeah, right. Thanks. You're making it easy.
Yeah, okay.
You mentioned it really quick. My listeners will kill me if I don't ask you about "Heard It in a Love Song." You mentioned it earlier, but I mean that I think that wound up being your top charting hit, like the highest on the charts at least. But like "Heard It in a Love Song," that the way it is, "Heard It in a Love." I mean, the way it kicks in. Why do you think that song really caught the people's imagination?
Oh, because it's something that's not presented to you on a platter. Okay. To me, I put off singing that song. I'll tell you a real good story. Okay. For a whole year, we had the song finished except for my lead vocal. And I said, man, we play good songs. We don't just play this stuff. This is going to be the weakest song on the record. And sure enough, whole year I got a cough. I got a cough. I can't go down there. We're on the road. It's more important than we go on the road. Let's keep doing it. And so I just put it off for a whole year. And then they said, all right, we're getting ready to put the record out. Do you want that song on there? I went, I'll go down there and try it one more time. So I sang it one more time. Within 3 weeks after its release, it became a teeny bopper song. Okay. For people of certain ages. I mean, I was hearing the kids did like they did with Eminem first time they heard. You know what I mean? It changed our whole thing. And I'll say that way only because that "Heard It in a Love Song" it identifies with Southern rednecks. Okay, but then you look out there and there's a lot of women singing that to their wife or their girlfriend. Okay. You look out there and there's a lot of men singing it to their girlfriend. And there's a lot of it. And I watch this stuff. I see that people have a togetherness because of that song. They have a memory that's tied to the first time they ever heard that song on the radio.
Oh, I'm sure. It just brings the memories right back.
Yep,
It's
it
such a
does.
good one. It's such a good one. It really is.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah, I
you.
mean, thank you. We've covered a lot in here. Is there anything else you want to say about the 50th anniversary tour? Let's bring it full circle back around because that's what our listeners are going to come see at Capital One Hall. Can you believe it's been 50 years? I mean, is it gratifying to look back and see you've done, over 20 studio albums, all the hits, all the tours? I mean, it's got to be surreal to think it's been 50 freaking years.
You know what? Has, if I would have imagined, the only thing I really wanted to do was sing. Okay. If I would imagine that 50 years from now, first of all, nobody thinks that way. Everybody has a 5-year plan, even economists. Oh, we got a 5-year plan. Maybe we get the government to think that way for a change. But everybody has a 5-year plan. I don't know why. I don't know why they picked 5 years. To me, it was a day by day thing when I was growing up. Okay. But why did I think that it would last, it was because once I got in the military, I realized that people loved to be loved. And we felt like, and I knew I could sing that way to show them that I cared. And that was the only real relationship I had. My penmanship wasn't that good for relating back. I couldn't write a Valentine card. Okay, I had to buy one. But when it come to singing them something, look at Teddy Pendergrass and all these other people, they sing it and people melt, right? I couldn't do that. I could sing it to them, but I couldn't write it.
Right. Exactly.
Of course, I did write some hit songs, but that's beside the point. That's a different story than what you're looking for. What makes Marshall Tucker Band think we could be around 50 years from now is the fact of our loyalty of our crowds.
Exactly. And that's what's going to be coming out to Capital One Hall. Thank you so much for joining us. I really, really appreciate it.
Thanks, brother.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for joining us on Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. Remember to hit the subscribe button and give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. We'll see you next time. I wanted to take a second to tell you about an app I really enjoy. Living in the DC area is great, and Podcast DC gathers all of the local shows that I like all in one local app. Health, sports, local news, politics, and so much more. Podcast DC is the new local app with hundreds of DC area podcasts to choose from. I can earn exciting rewards just for listening and share the podcasts I love instantly. Available in the App Store or in Google Play, listen local with Podcast DC.